Welcome to Empower Hour. Let's get growing. Good morning, everybody. So good to be here. I hope everybody had a really nice Thanksgiving. I did. My daughter came down to visit me for a week in the Dominican Republic. I actually took 4 straight days off in a row. It was so good. So good. And I spent a lot of time in deep work in the last few weeks since I've been here, preparing for vision casting, writing my book, which I have my final drafts ready to go. Well, my final draft that has to go through a whole routine of stuff to make sure it's the final draft. But really feeling good. And today's topic is something that is really near and dear to my heart: purpose. And purpose isn't something you find, it's really something that you embody and live daily. It's not, a destination that you can just get to, but it's a reflection of how you show up in your life and how aligned you are, right? Purpose is rooted in your choices, your energy, and that alignment with who you are meant to be. And of course, you have to start with knowing who you are meant to be. So starting by asking that question, who am I and what is my purpose and why am I here, is something that is going to bring a lot of clarity. And living in purpose, guys, it doesn't make life easier, but it does make it clearer. Decisions become aligned. When challenges and obstacles arise and you are very clear on your purpose, you're going to be able to get through them in a place with a lot less suffering. And you don't have to chase things that don't resonate anymore. Decisions become really, really, really easy and choiceless, but it does require bravery, right? Courage to let go of playing small and embracing the unknown. And I've spoken about this so many times where I was chasing success, checking my goal boxes, and I still felt unfulfilled because I was in a comfort zone. I was still in survival mode. And I realized I couldn't achieve my way into purpose. I had to become the version of me who could live their purpose. And that took letting go of my limiting stories, my limiting beliefs, stepping into abundance, love, trust, and of course, gratitude. And it's not about being perfect, but it is about being impeccable, which means basically doing the best you can with what you have in this very moment. So before I bring our guest on, I will ask you guys to give some thought. Are you living in alignment with your purpose? Are you living in alignment with your fears and your doubts and your insecurity and your suffering and your anxiety? Just take some time today as we're listening to the very brave Brene tell her story. And remember that purpose evolves. It's okay if you feel like you haven't really been living in your purpose. Just keep committing, keep getting that clarity and realigning yourself. Is about trusting that process and living in alignment. And step by step, every small aligned action brings you closer to what I call soulful prosperity. So I am so excited to welcome Brene Royalty. She's an inspiring author and speaker to Empower Hour. Brene's journey of self-discovery and alignment with her higher calling Her alignment with her higher calling took shape during a transformative 5 months that she spent in Jamaica. She risked it all to go to Jamaica for 5 months. And while she was there, she penned her first book and deepened her connection to purpose. This is her topic today, living in purpose. And Brene is embodying the alignment to living in her purpose. And she's going to help guide us through breaking free from societal expectations and stepping into the life that our souls truly desire. So let me get this here. Welcome, Brene Royalty.
Hi, Jen. Good morning. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I'm excited to have you. So I guess let's begin with not your entire journey. Let's keep it to living in your purpose. Let's hear that story. Like, how did you come to a place to realize, number one, you weren't living in your purpose, or maybe you weren't fully living in your purpose, and then to take this brave 5 month sabbatical and go off to Jamaica and to truly make sure that you were living in your purpose by writing your book. So tell us that journey, please.
Yes. I'll tell you the truncated version of the story because it's honestly been, I think, a story of the last 20 years. But so my background is in accounting. That's what I graduated with my degree with in 2009. And I always say, from my first job as an auditor, I would go to work and count down the days until retirement. So I always felt I was aligned with my CPA career. And I ended up spending 7 years before I jumped to fitness. So I feel that the real pivotal moment actually came during the pandemic, where I stopped doing fitness because of the pandemic, and I just felt very stuck and lost in life. And I say that, I started to wonder, like, why can't I be like a regular person who just wants to live the traditional American dream of get a good job, work up the corporate ladder, get married, buy a house, have kids and a dog and a white picket fence? Why can't I just be normal? Why did I have to have this burning desire to live my passion and live in my purpose? So I ended up at this retreat in Colorado with Oliver Nino. It was an energy healing retreat where I learned how to become an energy healer. And I just something happened during that retreat, just kind of opened me up to just another way of life. And I actually, one of my coaches that I coached with was at that retreat. And so that's where I started to really connect to what is my purpose, because I thought fitness was that, because I left my accounting career to jump into fitness. And again, like you said it in your opening, your purpose evolves. So fitness was, I said, wasn't the destination, but it was a vehicle to get me to where my ultimate purpose which is using my gifts of spoken word and written word to inspire others. So during my soul searching, a little bit during the pandemic and a little bit after the pandemic, I looked up and I realized I was always living in my purpose. I was just distracted. So I was writing inspirational speeches as a Toastmaster for at the point, it was the last 7 years. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where I connected to. I wanted to be a speaker and an author. And again, I didn't have a lot of money at the time. So it's like there was this limiting belief that, oh, you need to have tons of money to start a business or start getting yourself out there. And nowadays we have social media. So I just started posting my Toastmaster speeches on YouTube, on Facebook, and I got a lot of good feedback. Like, some people would secretly message me and say, I watch your speeches and you inspire me to be a better person. So that really gave me the confidence to keep on moving deeper. And I had I think a really painful relationship that ended in 2022, and I knew I had to write about it. And it was interesting. I always tell this story. It was interesting because I always ask the universe or God, what to do next. And I asked, what should I write about first? I'm in my meditation, and I heard this small voice that said relationships. I'm like, no, 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 no. I don't want to write about relationships because I didn't have a successful relationship. I didn't have a degree in psychology. I wasn't a therapist. Who am I to write a book on relationships? So I asked God again, and I got the same answer. So I ended up going to Jamaica. And my trip to Jamaica, I feel like it's probably the lowest, one of the lowest points of my life. Just everything, I was just completely misaligned. And to me, being in Jamaica, writing, being by the beach was just super therapeutic. And I think another limiting belief is that we have to have a lot of money to live in a foreign country. My rent was like $200 for a house. So I was it's actually cheaper to live in Jamaica than it was in the States. So
Wow.
that's where I penned my first book, Abundance in the Bedroom: Four Things Women Desire from a Man. And that book was a symbolism of not just believing in myself, but it also was just breaking free of that good girl image. I grew up straight A's, honor society, I had this prestigious degree, prestigious career as a CPA. But here am I writing a book. It was not really about sex, but about relationships. And so that's how I really the story, truncated story of how I really got started living in my purpose.
Wow. So one thing that really strikes me is how, um, you had this, you were always this good girl, straight A's and blah blah blah, right? So that programming, well, first of all, what we do to young ladies, I have a granddaughter and she is wild, okay, like wild, and I have to very much catch myself not using terms like like good girls don't do that, or let's be good, or let's act like a good girl, and so the fact that you were able to break free from that programming, and it's just such a funny thing that society does, and that we, the family members of women, young ladies that we love, that we're perpetuating this programming. So that's amazing that you were able to realize, like, no, I don't want to just follow this path. And on my vision casting, I talked about, one of the things that I've discovered in my studies, I've been studying NLP, neuro linguistic programming, is a presupposition, which is called, or which is, the map is not the territory. And what that basically means is we have like a very small snippet of a map, and we forget about the whole territory that is out there. And I said that day, my map sucked. I had a shitty map. I had to get a new map. And that's what that programming is. It's basically someone else gave you the map. You don't even know what the treasure is. Like, and yet you're living this life, following this map, and it's not even your map. So the fact that you were able to recognize that is really, really, really powerful stuff. And something that people, that's one thing, if you can become aware, right, really become aware that there is more than this map that we've been using. So one thing I want to ask you about is that courage, like just taking off to Jamaica for 5 months. Did you have family there? What were the thoughts that were going through your head at the time? And how did you overcome? I'm sure there was some of those thoughts were like, don't do it, you're crazy. Who are you to go to Jamaica for 5 months? Tell us all about that.
Yeah, definitely. So anytime I would share it with, so my family is Jamaican, but I was 6 hours away from any family that lives in Jamaica. But anytime I was sharing it with individuals, there was just a lot of fear. Like, as a woman, you shouldn't travel alone. It's dangerous. And again, it wasn't said out of to harm me, but just more of a protection. But
Yeah.
for me, I love palm trees. I've always loved the Caribbean culture, and it is my desire to live in Jamaica during the winter months. I'm getting to the point in life where the cold just doesn't fit me. So it's something that I was really just deep down desiring to do. And for me, I know I just needed to get out of New York. So the courage, I feel like I've developed a very strong muscle for overcoming fear from being a Toastmaster, because every week I get up in front of a crowd. And if anyone doesn't know what Toastmasters is, it's a public speaking and leadership club. I say it's more of a network and empowerment club to help you pretty much reach your dreams. So every week, getting up in front of a crowd for the last 9, 10 years, I'm overcoming that fear. And the more I did it, the more I realized I had this gift of public speaking. So I had that muscle within me. So for me, I do feel like when something is for us, that God will trust and support us. And I actually connected with someone that we know. We have a mutual friend. I connected through a client. Said, "Oh, I have this person I know that lives between Jamaica and the States." And so pretty much, I reached out and we connected. And she inspired me to move to that part of Jamaica. I was in Portland, and when she said her rent was like $200, I'm like, that's where I'm living because I didn't have, I was pretty much broke at the time, so that's where I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
So yeah, it did help. I did know have a friend there, so that helped kind of connecting to finding housing, just kind of getting around a little bit. So that was extremely helpful. And I feel that a lot of times, well, I say I'll speak for Jamaica that, I am American, even though I'm first generation American. They look at us as gold because they know if something happens to a tourist, that's their entire GDP. So I felt like I was well taken care of, that a lot of the Jamaicans in the community were very supportive of me and very kind. Now, of course, there's the other, sometimes they might ask you for money, but, that's part of the territory. But just, I had an amazing experience, and I was visualizing what I desired for the last, I think, maybe 6 months before I actually moved. So I remember moving at the end of January, and I was visualizing every day and writing it out what I desired. And if I look back in my journals, I got 80% of what I desired. I literally was a 2-minute walk to the beach, and it's not really developed, so it's a 1 mile white sand turquoise water beach. I walked it pretty much every day. Going to bed, I would hear the waves at night, so I got that beach vibes, pretty much everything I desired. And again, I felt very safe in the community. It was one of the quieter areas of Jamaica, so just having that why and that vision and that deep burning desire to do something, and that will help. I feel that helps push us over the fear, and that really helps to really, I say, courage isn't that you don't have fear, but you move forward despite of it. So
Yeah, I love that. And that's like one of the steps in your Live Your Purpose guide, cultivating courage and authenticity. And the when you're in your authenticity and you're in your purpose, the courage comes, right? Because you trust that, no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And even if this seems a little scary or a little crazy or whatever, that courage sort of comes naturally. Is that what you
I
experienced?
agree. I agree. Definitely, like I said, it's like definitely like building a muscle. The more we use it, the stronger we get. So pretty much, like I said, I spent 5 months in that area in Portland, and then that inspired me to take trips to other areas in Jamaica. I spent time in the Grill. I spent time in Montego Bay, which I thought I would never like Montego Bay, but I actually enjoyed it. So definitely, it translated into every aspect of my life, and I think it took a lot of courage because originally I had left being a CPA to jump into my fitness career, and that was in 2016. So I took that big plunge. So it was something I was just accustomed to doing, and the more I did it, the more comfortable. So it was easy for me to say, "Hey, let me be courageous and write this book. Let me be courageous and record an audio book. Let me be courageous and start this consulting and mentorship business, sharing, teaching others how to live in their purpose."
I love it. I love it. And then just going back for a second, one of your steps also talks about looking back to move forward. Can you explain that? Like, and I guess that really has a lot to do with that good girl, right? Having that programming. So I would love to hear what you mean by that.
Definitely. So I feel that we're all here to serve a purpose, and we come to the earth as babies to serve a purpose. And then again, we speak about that programming. So some of the questions that I ask clients is, one, like, what did you love to do when you were a child, or what are very fond memories? And second question is, what were you criticized for? And a third question would be, what are some traumatic moments? So you may have answers for all three questions, or just one of the questions, but a lot of times that's where our purpose is found. So for me, what I absolutely loved doing as a child, I went to Montessori school, and one of the activities we did was that they would give us a box of cards with words on it, and we'd find a place in the classroom and we would write the words. And I would love writing and playing with my words. I would organize them on a carpet, and then I would just write like 25 words. And most of the times the other kids would write like 10 words and they could move on to something else, but I just loved playing with my words, and I would go to my teacher. So I always had a knack for words when I was younger. And then something I was criticized for was, you're too quiet, way too quiet. I was voted quietest person in my high school class. But being a quiet person helps me with writing, and that's where I express a lot of my feelings, where it really just flows. So looking back to then, and I love learning. I always love learning and growing. I love going to school. So that kind of is the teaching aspect of me. So I look back to understand that's what I enjoy and that's what I'm passionate about. And again, I was maybe programmed to be more of an analytical brain because growing up, I excelled at math growing up. like more so when in elementary school, and then pretty much I got a degree in accounting. And how I got into accounting is that more so that I was always good with money. You know, people always trusted me with money and I always would save. So my family encouraged me to study finance, and then another family member encouraged me to go in accounting because it was more stable. And it wasn't bad things to tell me. It's just I was listening to others and not connecting to what I truly desired within myself. So that's how really you can really connect to your purpose, is looking back into your past. And like I said, I feel like a lot of us kind of know what our purpose is, but we're scared of moving forward into it, or like you're saying, is who are we to live a life that we actually like or are fulfilled in? So
Yeah. So if somebody who's listening or listening later, says, wow, I really don't feel aligned and I don't feel like I'm living in my purpose, where do they start?
I would say where you would start is connecting to a why. Like, why do you want to live in your purpose? What's your intention? So for me, when I wrote my first book, I had an intention of, look, as I said earlier, God, this is what God wanted me to do, and I wanted to live in my purpose. That was the primary intention and primary why. And then the second part was just kind of therapeutic to get over that relationship. And it's interesting because I almost never published the book, because when I sent it off to the editors, the self doubt started to creep in, where it was like, who am I to publish a book? I don't have a degree in psychology. I'm not a therapist. I don't have a successful relationship to flaunt. And I was going to ask you to start writing another book. Like, oh, well, this book, it was more comfortable for me. It was within my comfort zone. It was about something about corporate America, because at the time I probably had close to 15 years of experience in corporate America. And then went back to that why. It's like, well, this is the book that God wanted me to write. And that's what helped me to move forward with actually publishing the book. And I had the same self doubt when I went on to do the audiobook. Like, is my voice good enough to tell this story? Right. So that's number one, is really having your intention and your why. And number two is what we just spoke about, trying to go back into your past and find what did you what you enjoy, or maybe there was a traumatic experience. So for me, I was diagnosed with a terminal illness when I was a teenager, and I turned that pain into my purpose of becoming a fitness instructor. So it's kind of like those painful moments can actually be guiding us towards our purpose. So be aware. And I would say this second thing after that is, who are you? What does authenticity mean to you? What do you value? So my values maybe 10 years ago were the traditional idea of success, working my way up the corporate ladder, making money, having status, having this beautiful body. That was probably my values 10 years ago. Now my values are number one, health, mental, emotional, physical health, followed by relationships, both with family, friends, intimate relationships. And third is living in my purpose. Fourth is experiences. So aligning yourself with what your values are is important. And then taking that first small step. For me, like I said, before I published my first book, I didn't know how to publish a book, but I knew how to sit down in front of a computer and write. And that was the first step that I took. And then from there, other the next steps opened up. I started talking to other authors, both who who published independently and both who went traditional publishing. So the steps will open up. You figure things out, opportunities come your way. So I think those are the first, say, four steps to take with living in your purpose. And I think also something that's important is maybe getting outside of your normal routine or normal environment. Even it's maybe
Mm,
taking a leave of absence from work, or maybe it is maybe moving to a different country, or even just a different state or a different environment for a month or two. It really helps
yes,
to get away from the normal daily routine. Because something about, especially traveling to a different country, it just opens up and expands the mind in ways that we never would have realized if we haven't just taken that chance and taken that risk to go someplace else.
agreed. So true. So true. And um, what you just talked about is really practice in becoming comfortable with the unknown, right? Going to a different country. Um, and one of the things that I was doing while I was really trying to find my purpose, who was I would just take mini weekend trips, whatever I could afford and wherever I could go, just so I can be in a different space for, a few days to change my perspective, to meet different people in different cultures. I mean, listen, you don't need to go to another country to find a different culture. Just go to Pennsylvania. Jersey, okay, go down south, and you can really travel inexpensively. I've learned how to do that, but really, it all boils down to that becoming comfortable with stepping into the unknown. And I think that that is one of the most damaging patterns that most people have, is just keeping everything. And I'm really guilty of it. Believe it or not, I'm not super spontaneous. I have my schedule, and I don't like when things get messed with my schedule. So I have very much on purpose made sure to be stepping into the unknown as often as possible. And that starts to stretch you. How do you suggest that people understand and tap into their why, and be able to identify their purpose? I mean, I'm 53 years old. I just kind of figured it out a few years ago. 54. I'm 54.
That 1 year makes a difference, right? Yeah, definitely. It's pretty much what we've been talking about, is finding that time. And I agree, you don't have to go to a foreign country. There's a lot of places you can visit in the States. Is just you can just go. Sometimes doing something in the unknown, maybe just going to like a different neighborhood, or just trying a different restaurant. You never know who you might meet or what you might see. So it's really taking that time to yourself. And for me, my spiritual practice is a lot of meditation. I feel like anytime I'm confused in life, or I don't know where to go next, I meditate a lot. So that's me. Sometimes meditation for other people may be dancing or writing. So you have to know what's your spiritual practice. It might be prayer, whatever it is. And so that helps you to kind of, it's go within, because our external world is a reflection of what's going on inside of us. So if someone who's seeking to find their purpose is really find that quiet time to yourself, and it might be, difficult. Hey, I have, a partner and kids, but I feel that if you make a decision to put yourself first, that the universe will conspire to support you. So I think a lot of times we'll say, especially as women, it's like we have to take care of everybody else. Like, oh, I can't spend a weekend away, or I can't spend a few weeks doing something for myself because I have kids, I have a partner, I have this. But again, we have to establish those boundaries and say, this is what I really need, because we can't pour from an empty cup. And also, it's important to find a community that's doing what you want to do. So, like I said, when I moved to Jamaica, I found someone who was doing it, right? And that really helped with just advice and just being more comfortable. And having, having a coach definitely helps to guide us. So being in a community and having coaches, like Jen is an amazing coach. So really, really important, because for many years I was trying to figure it out on my own. All right. So when I started to engage with communities that were like-minded and that inspired to do what I desired to do, I felt that it was easier for me to live in my purpose, and I feel like I had a great support network, which is important in any time we're embarking on something new.
Oh, yes, so good. And then one thing you said about self-care, and it just made me realize that one of the most important steps in leadership is getting comfortable with putting yourself first, which is so counterintuitive and complete opposite of what I did for the bulk of my life. And yeah, you become a better version of you, and you give other people a permission, and also you're blazing that trail for them to become a better version of themselves. And then that's where that courage, that trust, that faith, and the abundance, and all those things show up when you actually do start putting yourself first. And it's not in like, a narcissistic type way. It's self-care, it's having rituals to manage your energy and your stress, and, putting trust and love and faith and gratitude first. How did you start making that transition, going from good girl who should do what everybody says to putting yourself first.
I feel like it's been an evolution, and probably the turning point was going to Jamaica. I'm ignoring what everybody says about it's dangerous and I shouldn't travel alone as a woman, and I did it. So and then also with the book, publishing the book. So I think again, it's keep on taking those steps of and becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that's just now I'm just living I'm living the life that I desire, and I realized when I started doing that, the individuals around me started treating me differently, where sometimes I felt like maybe I wasn't being treated the best with some individuals that are close to my life. Now that they changed because I changed, my
Yeah.
energy, the energy within me changed.
Yeah.
So, right, and also I feel like I always say living in our purpose is one of the best ways to love ourselves. Like we deserve it, we're worthy of it.
We
And for
are.
me, I didn't realize it, but because it was buried underneath, my whole self worth was about achievement and success, prestigious degree from Syracuse University, pedigree, CPA, working for Big Four accounting firms. That was my entire self worth. So when I transitioned into fitness, I struggled with it
Yeah.
and realize that I've kind of had little self-worth because like I deserve to live a life that I desire, and I deserve to live in my purpose. I deserve to It's okay to ask for what you want, and it's okay to take time for yourself. It's okay to do these things.
I only thing I will caution you with is the word deserve. It is tricky because it kind of alludes as if we've earned it. It is our God given right, it is our birthright. We are born worthy. Um, so just that word sometimes triggers me a tiny bit because I know people wonder, like, and I used to think very much like I've earned the right to do this, or even the expression earning a living. What? Right? Right? So, yeah, no matter what your past is, no matter where you're at in this very moment, you are worthy right here and right now. The alignment will come, and you'll become free, and it'll become choiceless living in your purpose when your actions are aligned with that, right? That's what manifestation is. Manifestation isn't necessarily, just boom, I want a unicorn and there the unicorn appears. It's not. And that's not to say that that can never happen, but typically it's aligning your actions with your ultimate outcome. But you are already worthy. And you said something earlier, and actually, I'm going to put this question up, even though we kind of asked it already. Anybody else who has questions, bring them in. These are coming in. That's why I was not paying attention for a second. But so the question is, when did you realize you were not living in your purpose? And you said something really awesome earlier. You said, I always was, but I was blocking it. And that's really it. Like your purpose is right in front of you. And the opportunities, all of it, but we tend to be doing all these other things because we think we know better, or we're not tuned in, we're not listening, we're not paying attention. So let's hear you answer that one more time.
When did you realize you're not in your purpose? Yes, definitely since I started my career in 2009 as an accountant. I always laugh when I think back to it. I literally went to work every day and I would come home and say, okay, day one down, X amount to go till retirement. I did that until like maybe 55 days and then I lost count after that. So
Wow.
I always knew. And then it was a journey. So when I was in accounting, like I was always thinking maybe if I should go into working for a non-for-profit. So I was always thinking that it was something on the outside, and it really is. Again, is going deep within. And I feel that is interesting. The last corporate job that I held before I made that jump to fitness, which I said was a stepping stone to get me to my ultimate purpose, is I was working. I'm not gonna say where I was working, but but I remember walking into that job my first day, and there's this small whisper that says, "You're on the wrong path." And what do you do on your first day of work when you hear you're on the wrong path? And honestly, the 6 months it was very challenging. I felt extremely misaligned. Like honestly, I would like peel myself out of bed every morning. I would just dread every time.
Mm.
Every time I would have to go on the train, and like as I got closer to the job, I was like, I felt horrible. I just felt like this wasn't for me, and it was showcased in the way, in the experience I had. But the shining light in that experience was that I started teaching fitness classes for the company, and that was the only time I would get to work on time, was when I had to teach my class at the end of the day. So that was kind of like, it was a blessing, because that's kind of what propelled me to actually taking on fitness full time. And I was just completely misaligned. So I think paying attention to those small voices, and it's hard. Like, what do you do when it's your first day? And it's like, listen to it. Now, I'm not saying you don't move forward, but just listen to it and be aware, because our intuition knows a lot. Our body will know something before we actually see it in the physical world. So definitely take that time to to have a conversation with that small voice within, because it's speaking truth to us.
Love it. How did you start putting yourself first?
How do you start putting yourself first? Yeah, that's again going back to childhood. As women, we're always taught to make sure everyone is taken care of. And like I said, a lot of things I did was to appease parents, which, my parents are come from, the Caribbean and migrate here, and it's really that American dream is the dream. So I started putting myself first. When I feel like the turning point was when I went into fitness, because that was not a popular decision with some family, because I went from making, a good amount of money to, there was a transition period. So again, everyone likes to say, it's very proud to say, oh, my daughter is a CPA, or so now it's like, oh, she's a fitness instructor. And it's interesting when I would speak to individuals about, oh, I'm a fitness coach. It's like, really, you do that for a living? It just wasn't the same importance that I had when I'm a CPA. So this again is like I've been saying, with that muscle, every time we use it, it gets stronger. So that was, I think, the first time I really started putting myself first and doing what I desired. And then the other big moments was moving to Jamaica and writing the book, and sometimes just saying no. And the no is a complete sentence. It's setting
Mm.
boundaries, being okay. This was another big one too, was sharing how I felt. Like, I didn't grow up in an environment that I was like, feelings. What's a feeling? I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to pay attention to my feelings. Like, I could understand when someone's upset or happy, but expressing my needs
Yeah.
was not something I grew up knowing how to do. Just wasn't a part of the culture
Yeah.
I grew up in. And so being able to confidently ask for what I want
Yeah.
was very helpful, and go after what I desire. And also be aware that I'm not responsible for other people's feelings. So like,
Hmm.
by me living my life, I probably offended somebody. I might have offended somebody with a book. It was like, that's their issue, not mine. So again, I feel like
Exactly.
putting yourself first it's a practice, and start small. Start small. Maybe just say no to a request. Maybe it's a request for your time, and you don't want to spend time with that person, so you say no.
Yeah. No, I spent the week with my youngest daughter, who struggles a lot in this, you know, in this space, apologizing when she does express her needs, and so it's ingrained in us, and just starting to practice by saying no, like you said, and then, also saying yes to the things that you do want, instead of like, like just the fact, like you talking about going to Jamaica for 5 months, me being here for 6 weeks. There was so many like other people's, what's important to everybody else in my head. And I just had to like listen to, like, no, this is really important to me, to living in my purpose, to carrying out my mission and my vision. Um, and it does, it takes time. Let's see, how does your habits impact your ability to live in your purpose? Somebody teed this one up for me, so go ahead. Let's hear.
Yes,
Renee.
habits are extremely important, because a lot of times we'll take a course, or we'll take a class, and then we go back to just living life the way we were living before, because we haven't changed our habits, and we haven't changed our subconscious mind. So for me, I feel my spiritual practice started with meditation. I want to say 2000, maybe 2010, 2011. I was watching Oprah, and I was a big Oprah fan, and she was all about meditate, and she was also about finding a life and living your life with something bigger than yourself. Like that
Hmm.
was a so kind of the whole purpose and meditation, watching Deepak Chopra on Oprah. That was where my spiritual practice started, and that's something I I do every day since then. And I do it in the morning. I have a goal. I do it in the morning. Sometimes if I get to it in the evening, but that's one of my biggest spiritual practices. I write a lot. I write almost every day, and writing I can just say thank you. So writing is very therapeutic for me. And I listen to a lot, whether it's YouTube videos. I have a list of sometimes it's Joe Dispenza or Oprah, just to keep my mind in a certain level of vibration, because it's easy to fall back into that logical analytical world. Like not everything. It seems like we feel sometimes that we need to know everything beforehand, right? It's like no, we don't need to know everything. We just need to have the desire and embody who we want to be, and that's been helpful. So pretty much meditation, journaling, keeping my frequency high with listening to certain individuals on YouTube, and also, like I said, joining a community. Coaching with Jen, and I'm in different communities that again that align with who I am and who I want to be, and that's really helped me to continue to live in my purpose. And one of those communities is Toastmasters. So when I wrote my book, I did my first soft launch with Toastmasters. It's a very supportive community, like I said, to help you reach your dreams. And I keep on just investing in myself. In the last, say, 7 years, I spent about $50,000 in just investment in different experiences, coaching, courses, retreats. So it's okay to invest in yourself. We deserve it. You're worthy.
Yes, you are worthy. Absolutely. Um, so what is next for you?
What is next for me? So right now, I released a book in 2023, and I re-released it in 2024 with the audiobook. And what I'm doing now is I'm teaching others how to live in your purpose. And I have a book signing event coming up this Monday. It is in person. If you're in Harlem, is at El Barista Cafe, and I'll be speaking everything about discovering how to live in your purpose and share your story. If you're unable to attend, I do have a guide called Start Living in Your Purpose, where it's the first 5 steps you can take to start living in your purpose. And I will have future workshops on, again, how to discover your purpose. And also, I say I'm a consultant that mentors others on how to live in their purpose. I really teach others the tools and empower you to create the life you desire, because the life you desire may not look like the life I want, but
Right.
how to connect to yourself. So that is what's next for me, and I'm super excited for the event on Monday. But again, if you can't make it, I'll have other online workshops that you can attend. So be sure to click
Register.
the register, yeah, register, and keep up to date on my journey and on the offerings that I have in the near future.
I love it. I love it. So, really great conversation, really good stuff. I'm actually going to plug something because it came out of our conversation. I am launching a 14-day habit challenge. And one of the things that you brought up was it's not so much about breaking the bad habits. Yeah, there's always some of that. There's some habits, have very few vices left, but the ones that are left are pretty ingrained, So it's, of course, about breaking habits, but it's also about building beautiful habits. And when you focus more on building the beautiful habits that are going to support you, the other habits just start to like go to the background and become not as prevalent, because you don't have that void when you begin to start living in your purpose. You don't have this hole you're trying to fill, which is where a lot of the bad habits come from. So this is completely free. Brene, you're in it, whether you knew that or not. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And it's really going to be a lot about habit building, a very positive approach. And it's going from December 9th through, I think, the 23rd, so that you can be a little more conditioned going into the new year, as opposed to doing this like resolutions and trying to, just, this isn't even the time of year to come out as a whole brand new you, which is why resolutions, by the way, almost no one gets past February in following their new resolution. So this is more about a conditioning and adding in things that are going to build the habits that are going to align you to living in your purpose. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a ton of fun. And yeah, you stated it all beautifully. And it's like, you know, we live we have a lot of mutual friends that talk a lot about manifestation. So I'm so glad that you've broken it down to, you know, the steps and putting yourself first and all the things that fall into place to allow you to remove the ways that you are blocking your purpose, your destiny, and this greatest life and all of your desires. So really well put. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Is there anything else you want to share before we go?
Start living your purpose today. You are worthy. Thank you so much, Jenna. It was a pleasure to be here with you.
You are worthy. All right, everyone. I think we'll see you next week. I think that'll be the last Empower Hour of the year, but I'll decide over the weekend. And if not, you will be seeing plenty of me in the next few weeks. Lots of huge stuff happening that I'm so excited about. And have a great weekend.